I threw the car into reverse, shot out of the parking lot. I heard a loud pop. My back window cracked from the bullet. Somehow, I lost them again. Made it home. Alive. Later, I found 2 more bullet marks on my car. I still think about how close I was to dying. And for what? $1? There are so many messed up people in this world. Me and Andrew, my half-sister's cousin, we were both 18 at the time. We decided to go exploring in the abandoned asylum in our town. It was way past dark, and the roads were empty, probably after midnight. Andrew was driving. We both brought video cameras, hoping to catch something cool. YouTube was still pretty new back then, maybe 2 or 3 years old, and exploring creepy abandoned places was the thing at the time. We crawled under a hole in the fence. Someone else had cut it. Both of us had flashlights. Ready for me to continue from here? Let me know when you want the next part rewritten. Thank you for waiting. Here is the next portion of your script rewritten in a realistic, emotionally engaging voice, with clear narration pacing and expressive cues built in for natural AI or human voiceover. The story remains untouched and no headings or bullets are added. Just a smooth, immersive storytelling flow. The windows had a few loose planks on the floor nearby. They must have once been nailed across the glass to stop people from getting in. We began our search, flashlights on, and Andrew had his camera rolling. It had night vision, which helped in the darker corners. There was nothing but broken glass, graffiti everywhere. The whole place felt like it had been swallowed by time. Some of the wooden floorboards were cracked, with dark holes between them that led to God knows where. We didn't even bother shining our lights down those gaps. We were laughing a bit, trying to play it cool, but honestly, I was creeped out as hell in there, and I knew Andrew was too. The asylum was huge. We eventually found ourselves in this tiny room. There was an old dental chair still sitting in the middle of it, and some equipment scattered around. It felt off, like something bad had happened in there a long time ago. But the worst room? The bathroom. We went in and instantly heard it, a constant dripping sound. It was coming from one of the stalls. We tried to open it, but it was locked. We looked underneath. The opening was too small to crawl through. We left that room quick. We didn't even speak, just exchanged a look that said let's go. Behind one of the doors, we found a staircase. It led up or down. Of course, we picked down. I mean, we were 2 teenage idiots trying to make a scary video. So we went into the basement. This level felt different. The air was heavier. The halls were darker. The silence, louder. We found a bulletin board covered in old photos and yellowed newspaper clippings. We were reading through some of them when we suddenly heard a loud metallic thud from deeper in the hallway. We spun around and aimed our flashlights, just in time to catch a glimpse of something. We swear it was a forehead, just a sliver of it, quickly pulling back into a side room. Andrew screamed. I started yelling too as we bolted back the way we came. It could have just been a homeless guy, right? But as we were thudding up the stairs, we heard footsteps below us, climbing. Fast. I was in the back. I could feel it. At any second, I thought I was going to be grabbed from behind and dragged back down. But we made it. Burst out of that hallway, ran to the window we crawled in through, and dove back out into the cold night air. From inside, we heard the stairway door open again. We sprinted to Andrew's car and never looked back. We were a young couple, just moved into a new house. It had a first-floor bedroom, an upstairs, a middle level, and a den. No basement. Or at least we thought. At night, we started hearing noises, strange ones, coming from below us. I checked under the bed. Nothing. But the sound, it was coming from beneath the floor, which didn't make sense. There wasn't supposed to be anything below. Then we noticed odd things each morning. Doors that we swore we'd shut the night before, wide open. My wife's closet door always seemed ajar, even when we'd closed it tight. One night, we made sure. We shut all the windows, all the doors, everything. Next morning, every door was open again. We decided we'd had enough. That night, we stayed up, listening, waiting. The noises grew louder than ever. Dragging sounds, moaning, like furniture being shoved across concrete. I headed down to the den and pressed my ear to the wall. The sound was behind it, no below it. There was something under our den. I went back up and told my wife we had to stay awake. No matter what. We stayed up until about 2 a.m. Eventually, I must have dozed off. I woke to my wife shaking me, silently crying. She pointed. Her closet door was open, and inside it was a hidden door. A trapdoor leading down. We could see a ladder. And darkness. I told her to lock the bedroom door and call the police. I grabbed the machete I kept under the bed and climbed down. At the bottom, I found a light switch. The room was small. It had a single table, a chair, a small cot in the corner, and toys. Kids' toys. Scattered everywhere. Like someone lived down here. Then I heard it. A scream. From upstairs. I flew up the ladder, machete in one hand. As I reached the top, the bedroom door cracked inward. Someone had kicked part of it in. Through the hole, I saw a face. A man. Filthy. Red, crazed eyes. He saw the blade in my hand and ran. Straight out the front door. I have no idea what that room was. Some old bomb shelter? A hidden basement? But I don't know who that man was. Or how long he'd been living beneath us. I was 27. My girlfriend and I had just moved into a small apartment. Nothing fancy, we weren't exactly rolling in cash. But it was ours. First night in, and we already hated the neighbor. Yelling, thumping, all night. Like they didn't sleep. My girlfriend wanted me to go talk to them. I told her I would, if it happened again. It did. Next night, same thing, maybe worse. Banging. Sometimes even against the wall we shared. I'd had enough. I knocked on the door. A middle-aged albino woman answered. Her voice was raspy, like she'd been chain-smoking since the 80s. I politely asked her to keep it down. She snarled, "Mind your own business," and slammed the door. That night, the noises got even louder. My girlfriend said we should report her. So the next day, I went down to the front desk. I told the doorman about the couple living in that apartment. He blinked. "There's no couple," he said. "Only a woman named Kathy. Her husband died 5 years ago. He said the lease showed only one occupant, and she wasn't allowed guests. He went up to check the room himself. Kathy let him in. He looked around, came back down, and told me she was alone. He did ask her to keep it down, though, and it worked. For a while, that night was quiet, peaceful, until I woke up and saw someone standing by our bed. Anna, I whispered, but my girlfriend stirred next to me. She was still in the bed. Then, that same raspy voice whispered, "You shouldn't have reported me." I screamed, fumbled for the lamp. My girlfriend was screaming too. By the time I got the light on as she was gone, I ran into the hall in my robe. Her apartment door was wide open. She was nowhere in sight. Nothing was heard of Kathy for a full week. Then, one night, came 4 loud knocks on our wall. Not thumps. Knocks. Deliberate. We moved out the very next day. I lived on a farm ranch with my grandparents. My parents had kicked me out, and I couldn't afford to rent an apartment, so they let me stay with them, for a fraction of the cost. I slept in a bedroom on the first floor. The smell of old people was much more pungent in this room. It was littered with my grandma's religious relics. I had to deal with a giant painting of Jesus, just staring at me while I slept. Weird things didn't actually start happening until my second week of living there. I got home from my job, working at a small corner store in town. By then, it was already dark. While unlocking the front door, I heard footsteps. Out in the crops. I had to assume someone was trying to steal my grandpa's produce. So, I tiptoed closer to get a better look, making sure to stay away from any fallen leaves or anything that could make a sound. There was somebody in the crops, but they were crawling on all fours as if they were sneaking around. I could have confronted them, but that might have ended badly. So I went back inside and quietly woke my grandpa. He stormed outside, yelling like a madman, rifle in hand. "If I ever catch you here on my farm, I won't hesitate to blow your brains out." That seemed like more than enough to scare anyone off the property. But the next night, while I was asleep, things got even stranger. I woke up to laughing. Outside my window, there was somebody standing there, just watching, looking into the bedroom. He noticed me as I sat up, then slowly walked away. I told my grandpa again, and this time, he was furious. He stomped to his closet, pulled out his rifle, and marched to the front door. I was right behind him. I lived on a farm ranch with my grandparents. My parents had kicked me out, and I couldn't afford to rent an apartment, so they let me stay with them, for a fraction of the cost. I slept in a bedroom on the first floor. The smell of old people was much more pungent in this room. It was littered with my grandma's religious relics. I had to deal with a giant painting of Jesus, just staring at me while I slept. Weird things didn't actually start happening until my second week of living there. I got home from my job, working at a small corner store in town. By then, it was already dark. While unlocking the front door, I heard footsteps. Out in the crops. I had to assume someone was trying to steal my grandpa's produce. So I tiptoed closer to get a better look, making sure to stay away from any fallen leaves or anything that could make a sound. There was somebody in the crops, but they were crawling on all fours as if they were sneaking around. I could have confronted them, but that might have ended badly. So I went back inside and quietly woke my grandpa. He stormed outside, yelling like a madman, rifle in hand. "If I ever catch you here on my farm, I won't hesitate to blow your brains out." That seemed like more than enough to scare anyone off the property. But the next night, while I was asleep, things got even stranger. I woke up to laughing. Outside my window, there was somebody standing there, just watching, looking into the bedroom. He noticed me as I sat up, then slowly walked away. I told my grandpa again, and this time, he was furious. He stomped to his closet, pulled out his rifle, and marched to the front door. I was right behind him. The moment he opened the door, something grabbed his leg. It yanked him down. I lunged forward and tackled the guy, took him down fast, since he was already crouched. My grandpa got back up, grabbed his gun, and aimed it right at the guy's head. I called the sheriff. Grandpa kept the man at gunpoint. Then, suddenly, I heard a scream. It was Grandpa. I dropped the phone, eyes wide, heart pounding. I thought the worst had happened. I ran to the stoop, and there he was. Grandpa on the ground, holding his nose. He was bleeding. Someone else had come along, shoved him to the ground, and punched him in the face before running off. I wish I'd gone after those sick freaks with a gun. I mean, who punches an elderly man in the face? In the end, the sheriff arrived for nothing. And Grandpa, he just repositioned the camera system to aim directly at the crops. Last month, I got home late one night, after hanging out with my sister, her husband, and a few of their friends. As I walked up to the stoop, I saw my mom had left a note on the door, telling me to take out the garbage cans to the front. I made a point of being really quiet, since everyone was asleep by then. When I got to the side of the house, by the garbage cans, I heard voices, coming from the backyard. I peeked over the fence. There were two people, standing by our patio table. I was frozen, freaked out. You can imagine why. I ran inside to tell my mom. My dad doesn't live with us. Otherwise, I'd have gotten him. We had just stepped out of her bedroom when we noticed the two people from the backyard were coming up the steps. I shoved my mom toward the window, basically forced her to jump onto the tiny ledge outside. Somehow, I got her to do it. And just as the two intruders entered the room, I hopped out myself. I only caught the briefest glimpse of them as I dropped to the ledge, then to the grass below. We booked it to the neighbor's house without looking back. 2 weeks later, just when we'd started to move past it, the phone started ringing. It was 3 in the morning, and it just kept ringing. The voicemail came in. My mom got up after, like, the 10th ring. We looked at each other and let it be. The phone just kept ringing, another 10 minutes straight, until finally, my mom walked over and yanked the phone cord right out of the modem. We slept with it off that night. I was sure it had something to do with the break-in. I mean, two weird things like that don't just happen so close together, not without them being linked somehow. The next day, my mom got a text message. It said, asterisk, why didn't you pick up? Asterisk, that was only a week ago. And we're still, brief inhale. We're still shitting ourselves. Just waiting to see when the next incident's gonna happen. A 14-year-old girl was asleep in her room on a school night when she apparently woke up and remembered she had homework due the next day. Homework she hadn't even started. She flicked on the light and sat at her desk, starting to work on it. The clock read exactly 1:15 a.m. Over the sound of her pencil scratching the paper, she began hearing faint noises. They were coming from inside the walls. She stopped writing. The sounds grew clearer, like something was being slowly pushed from inside the walls. Right next to her bed was a storage space, with a square panel in the wall, the kind that pops off so you can access the crawl space. She screamed for her mom. That's when the sounds suddenly intensified, bam bam bam, like something was running in there. Then, the panel popped off, and a figure crawled out. Her parents heard the screaming, even through 3 closed doors. Her father rushed into the room. What he found was a tall, overweight white man, covering his daughter's mouth with one hand. The fight ended in seconds. Her dad landed a few solid punches to the guy's gut, knocking him down. When police arrived, they found 2 pairs of the girl's underwear stuffed in the man's pocket. He was arrested on the spot. Me and my wife were spending the night together at Cedar Beach. Unfortunately, the place closes at 9:30, and it's miles from Well, basically anywhere. So we were stuck with nothing to do at the beach at 9:30 at night. We just started walking through the wet sand. Stayed out there until about 10. For the first half of the walk, we didn't see a single soul on the beach. Then we turned around to head back. About 20 feet into walking back the way we came, we both noticed it. There were more than 2 sets of footprints in the sand. Ours were already starting to wash away, but these other 2? They were fresher, more defined, and they trailed off toward the dry sand. The dunes, where the prints stopped completely. Maybe just another couple taking a late-night stroll, right? But we hadn't seen anyone for over a mile. So we were spooked. I turned on the flashlight app on my phone and scanned the dunes. Even called out, asking if anyone was there. Nothing. I told my wife to wait while I went over to the garbage bins. That seemed like the only place someone could be hiding. It was clear, but when I shined my light further down the path, I saw a tunnel. It probably led to a parking lot. I moved in closer until I could see just a little inside. And the second I saw what was in there, I shut the light off. There were 2 things inside. I don't even know if I should call them humans. From what I saw, they were hunched, naked creatures huddled in the tunnel. Their skin was a strange tone, somewhere between dark Caucasian and ash, but it was wrinkled, flaky, like it didn't belong on a person at all. I didn't say a word. I just stomped through the sand, grabbed my wife by the arm, and pulled her with me, running all the way back to the car. We were out of breath, panicked, hearts racing. We jumped into the car, locked the doors, and I finally told her what I'd seen. She looked at me like I was insane. And honestly, she still does. But can you blame her? I'm sure you're not even taking this seriously. I reported what I saw to the proper authorities the next day. And ever since then, I've been coming back to the beach at night, once a week, to try and find those creatures again. I work as a night janitor at the local high school. 95% of the time, I'm the only one working the night shift. There's just no need for more than one person. I always start with the downstairs classrooms, then work my way up to the second floor. The cafeteria, gym, auditorium, nurse's office, all that's handled by the morning and afternoon guys. Since I'm alone, I usually leave radios scattered around the hallways playing music just to keep me company. Like I did this one night. The upstairs of the school is shaped like a U, not an O. So if I needed to get to the other side, there was only one way. I was mopping the floor in one of the social studies classrooms when, all the way across the other side of the school, I saw the lights in one of the rooms turn on. Not like it was left on. They turned on. I always shut every light behind me. I'm meticulous about that. I stood there, froze for a second. Chills were running through my body. There was somebody walking toward the window. They stopped and just stared straight at me through the glass. It was the most disturbing thing I had ever witnessed. I didn't know what to do. Confront them? Run away? Call the police? I stepped closer to the window and got a better look. It was a man. He looked like he was in his 30s, maybe 40s. Black hair, lots of facial hair. He raised his hand and began slowly waving at me. I yanked the blinds shut, hard, and stepped back, trying to catch my breath, trying to calm myself and figure out what to do next. But when I lifted the blinds again, the light in the classroom across the school was off. My heart started racing again. He was probably already on his way over to this classroom. Right then, running felt like the only option. So I ran. I bolted down the stairs and out the back door of the school, didn't give a single damn about anything but getting out alive. Later, security footage showed that at some point during the night, the man had actually emerged from the basement of the school and just started wandering around. When I got a closer look at his face on camera, I felt sick. He didn't look well. He didn't look right. There was just something off. Something that made my stomach turn. But the worst part? The footage showed him going back down into the basement. He never came back out. And when the school was searched, he wasn't found down there. Which makes me wonder, are there hidden rooms? Secret exits? Ever since then, showing up to this job has never been more terrifying. I used to work as a house cleaner when I was 17, just a guy trying to save up for college. The person I worked for the longest was this man named Jeffrey. I only met him once, when I was first hired, and maybe a couple times after that, when he came home early. That's it. I couldn't even tell you if he was normal or not. But he had one rule, a very serious rule. Don't go in the basement. He even taped a big sign to the door that said it. Curiosity ate away at me, but I kept my distance. One day, while dusting the furniture in his room, I got a little snoopy. Started going through some drawers. Don't ask me why. The bigger ones were full of clothes. The smaller ones had things like cameras, batteries, photo albums, and a bunch of random knickknacks. But in the bottom drawer, tucked neatly in the corner, was a small wooden box. It had a lock, and I remembered seeing a small key on the keyring in the kitchen. It looked like it might fit. I tried it. It turned. It opened. Inside was a stack of black and white photos. The first few were just shots of the house. Nothing weird. But then, I started showing up in them. In every single one. In every room of the house. Even in the bathroom. The most disturbing picture was in color, the only one that was. It was taken from outside the kitchen window, aimed directly at me while I was standing inside. I put the photos back in the box, except for a few I kept for evidence, just in case. Locked the box back up, put it away, and left everything else in the room untouched. I was about to walk out of the house and never come back when I passed the basement door. And I thought, if I'm never coming back, maybe I should finally see what's down there. I opened the door and flipped on the light. The smell hit me instantly, like rotting animals. The walls were plastered with weird posters, erotic ones. Some of them with kids. Boys and girls that looked under 18. There were 2 doors down there, probably to storage rooms or closets. I didn't open them, but the smell by those doors was the worst. That's when I realized there was a faint buzzing sound, almost mechanical. And when I moved, I noticed a camera, mounted in the corner of the ceiling. It was aimed right at me, and then it stopped moving. I didn't wait. That was my cue. I turned and left. Got in my car. Drove straight home. Never went back. Jeffrey tried to call me once. I didn't answer. He didn't leave a message. And thank God, I never gave him my address. I was getting off work from Stop and Shop after the midnight shift. Me and the only other guy on duty were walking out to our cars when this black pickup truck pulled up next to us. There was a man and a woman inside. They looked like dirty hillbilly rednecks. The guy had a mustache, a beard, a cap on, and a cigarette dangling from his mouth. The woman, her hair was greasy, and honestly, her whole face looked like it hadn't been washed in a week. They stopped right in front of us, blocking our path. The man leaned out the window and asked if we had any spare change for gas. My coworker reached into his pocket and handed over 50 cents. I gave the guy $1, hoping he'd just drive away. He looked down at the money, then looked back at us. "I'm gonna need more than that," he said. We both apologized. Told him that's all we had. "Bullshit," he muttered. My coworker was just as nervous as I was. The woman in the passenger seat had this devilish little smile on her face. It sent chills up my back. I didn't say a word. Just walked around the back of their truck, speed walked to my car. My coworker did the same. That's when I saw the guy spinning his pickup truck around. I jumped in, started my engine, and peeled out of that parking lot like my life depended on it. And maybe it did. They were following me for a while, but I eventually lost them. I pulled into a gas station and texted my coworker to see if he was okay. He said he was. I thought that was the end of it. But then, a pair of headlights rolled into the gas station. It was them. I got back in the car, heart pounding. The truck pulled right in front of me, tried to block me in. I saw the woman roll the window down, and in her hand, she had a gun. She pointed it out the window.